Officially, the population of the world has surpassed 8 billion, which scientists warn this can be a turning point for everything around the globe. But what can be done to control this population growth? Human population control is the practice of regulating the rate of a population growth in a certain location. Looking back at historical records, evidence suggests that government requirements to reduce the birth rate have typically been made in reaction to issues like high or rising levels of poverty, environmental concerns, religious concern, and overpopulation. Around the world, the population control method peaked in 1960s and the 1970s and was a major force behind numerous family planning and health initiatives. However, conflict developed between proponents of population control and women's health campaigners who expanded women's reproductive rights as part of a human rights-based strategy around the 1980s. Growing opposition to the narrow population control focus resulted in a significant shift in population control policies in the years that followed. As the global population grows, so do methods of control. These methods can be split into direct and indirect population control. Under the direct methods, we can find the natalist population control policies, which promote or advocate for childbearing. However, these policies can be separated into two areas: antinatalist and pronatalist policies. The most well-known antinatalist policy is China's one-child policy, which was implemented between 1980 and 2015 as a population planning initiative to limit the country's population growth by limiting the number of births per family. The policy was enacted to address the country's too rapid growth rate, which the government saw as excessive. However, the more powerful factor were indirect and foreign origin. China has had a tendency to worship science because of the Chinese obsession with Western style modernization. In other words, China's one child policy is a product of blind imitation of the Western population science. On the contrary, the policy began, as the name states, with one child, then from two to three children in May of 2021, just above the replacement ratio. But before China, Taiwan government was in fear of its population growth and implemented a family planning program. This was to curb the population growth in the 1960s, but this program was so effective that birth reached below even the replacement ratio, generally defined as 2.1 births per woman in 1984. It went until 2008, where the pronatalist ideals was accepted from information put forth in a white paper by demographers, economists, and feminists. This new pronatalist policy in Thailand had a ripple effect on many aspects of society, including the likes of childbearing and childbirth, and even policies pertaining to after the child has been birthed. Throughout this period in Taiwan, they identify areas that could be considered friction points in population growth: reduced and delayed childbearing, changing marriage patterns, low extramarital fertility, proximate determinants such as high use of contraception, abortion, and the lack of sexual intercourse or even sterilization, and socioeconomic determinants such as high direct cost of living and gender equality in the public and private aspects of society are examples of these areas. This white paper put forth 7 measures to counter the low trend in fertility. These were: 1. Improving marriage opportunities and rebuilding family values. 2. Improving the system for reproductive care. 3. Constructing affordable, quality assured, and accessible early childhood care and education facilities. 4. Providing economic support for families with children. 5. Building a family friendly work environment. 6. Implemented a maternity and paternal leave allowance. And 7. Improving the system for childhood protection. Nonetheless, modern population controls did not stop at policies. Allow us to explore.
Another method of population control is contraception, commonly known as birth control. It allows people to decide when they wish to have a child. There are several methods of contraception. Firstly, abstinence typically entails refraining from having sexual intercourse with anyone. It is occasionally used as a form of birth control, removing any chance of getting pregnant. Pregnancy is unlikely if one always abstains from all sexual activity. Some people define abstinence as refraining from all forms of sexual engagement, including vaginal, oral, and anal intercourse. Others define abstinence only as refraining from all vaginal sex but permitting other forms of sexual activity. Secondly, natural methods of contraception. Natural methods are considered natural because there is no direct human intervention or the use of hormone manipulation. Natural methods of contraception include 1. Family planning, which is a control of how many children one may want to have and how long they wait between pregnancies. 2. Educating the public on the benefits of using contraceptives. 3. Safe period or rhythm method, also known as the calendar method. This utilizes the body's natural cycles. In this case, the menstrual cycle is used to determine when a woman is fertile. When that time frame is determined, they can choose whether to have intercourse during that time. 4. Cervical mucus examination method involves observing the mucus patterns throughout a woman's menstrual cycle. Thirdly, barrier methods of contraception involve the use of barriers to keep a man's gametes from reaching the woman's gametes. Barrier methods include 1. Spermicide, which include the use of chemicals that prevent the male gametes from reaching the female gametes. 2. Condoms, which are made of latex and is used by both males and females. They are used to cover the male genital parts while females insert them into the reproductive organ. Moving on, surgical methods of contraception, also known as sterilization, is a permanent method of birth control. Surgical methods include 1. Tubal ligation is when females close off their fallopian tubes. 2. Vasectomy is in the case of males, where the vas deferens tubes are tied, cut, clipped, or sealed to prevent sperm from entering the semen during ejaculation. 3. Hysterectomy involves females, and in this procedure, the woman's uterus is being removed. Finally, intrauterine devices, also known as IUDs. These are little devices that are placed in a female's uterus by a healthcare provider. Other methods of contraception includes 1. Oral contraceptives or oral pill involve the use of medications to prevent pregnancy. 2. Injectable contraceptives are injections that contain hormones and is administered periodically to women.
An abortion is a procedure to end a pregnancy. This can be done via medicated abortion, which uses medicines to end the pregnancy. It is sometimes called a medical abortion or abortion with pills. A procedural abortion is a procedure to remove the developing offspring from the uterus. It is sometimes called a surgical abortion. Abortion is sought and needed even in settings where it is restricted, that is, in countries where it is prohibited altogether or is allowed only to save the woman's life, or to preserve her physical or mental health. Unintended pregnancy rates are highest in countries that restrict abortion access, and lowest in countries where abortion is broadly legal. As a result, abortion rates are similar in countries where abortion is restricted and those where the procedure is broadly legal. In analyses that exclude China and India, whose large populations skew the data, the abortion rate is actually higher in countries that restrict abortion access than in those that do not. In countries that restrict abortion, the percentage of unintended pregnancies ending in abortion has increased during the past 30 years, from 36% in 1990 to 1994 to 50% in 2015 to 2019. Migration is not a general or permanent solution to overpopulation, but for countries faced with high rates of population growth, it can offer some temporary relief from continual population pressure. In the long run, lowered birth rates will offer the only relief on a world scale. As fertility rates fall in many countries around the world, international migration is playing an increasingly important role in the population size of individual countries. In fact, for countries with declining fertility, international migration can make the difference between a growing population and a shrinking one. In addition to impacting population size, an influx of migrant workers can provide economic stability, combating a shrinking workforce and a growing number of dependents. The one-child policy of China, which was initiated in 1990 and was reversed in 2015, China faced internal problems related to the population, such as the Great Famine of 1958 and 1961. This might be deemed the direct cause of the one-child policy. China's one-child policy was deeply influenced by the West, especially by Western population science. Since the May 4th movement in 1919, the action has resulted in serious negative consequences, such as an imbalance of the sex ratio, elder care problems, human rights violations, undermining traditional values, and even endangering the regime. Those problems caused China to reverse its one-child policy. African countries like Nigeria, with a huge population of 170 million, and Gambia, three-fifths of whose population of 1.8 million is under 24, have also displayed an upsurge of interest in family planning, and understandably so. According to the International Planned Parenthood Federation, many African governments have now officially established family planning programs, and others either provide some services or support organizations or individual doctors that run such programs. Referring to the case of underpopulation, territories including Benin, Cameroon, Gabon, Central African Republic, Chad, and Congo, an area 6 times the size of France, has only 77 million people. In France's 63 million. In such countries, the objective of some family planning programs has essentially that of spacing birth rates rather than discouraging them. Even in those areas where overpopulation is the issue, the problems of positive population control have ensured that planning often focuses on the effects on mothers and babies of large families and of children born in rapid succession. In India, only people with two or fewer children are eligible for election to a Gram Panchayat, or a local government. The Indian people invented the Narod and decided to use the contraception to control childbirth. Humdu Hamaradu, or We Two Ours in English, is a slogan whose meaning is that of one family. Two children is intended to reinforce the message of population control. Iran has succeeded in sharply reducing its birth rate in recent years. Iran is the only country where mandatory contraceptive courses are required for both males and females before a marriage license can be obtained. The government emphasizes the benefits of smaller families and the use of contraception.